like conversational, learn greetings? Hola, mi nombre es Veronica.
Spanish 1.
Spanish 1. All right. So I won't do too much Spanish here, but let me tell you a little bit about myself. So my name is Veronica Salas Anderson, my married name. So I am Latina, Hispanic, Chicana. There's different words. Tex-Mex. I'm originally from San Antonio, Texas. Anybody ever been to San Antonio? Yeah? A lot of Latinos there, a lot of Spanish-speaking people there. I grew up speaking Spanish with my grandmother. Spanish is actually my second language, not my first. But my grandmother only spoke Spanish, so I learned from her. So a lot of my Spanish was Tex-Mex. Have you guys ever heard of that term, Tex-Mex? Spanglish, you ever heard of that? Spanglish, where like your Spanish is kind of so-so. You might take a Spanish word or an English word and turn it into a Spanish word, even though when you look it up, it's not really a word, but other people understand what you're saying. I did take Spanish. I actually took Latin in high school. I wanted to be a pediatrician. I figured Latin was the root of all medical terms, and that's why I took it. College, I did take Spanish because I realized I wasn't going to be a doctor, and Spanish would help me out more. I didn't realize how much it was going to help me out in the current job I have. So what do? I work at Kaufman Center for the Performing Arts. Has anyone ever been there? Show hands. Nice. Okay, who has not? Who hasn't been to this place? You guys need to check it out. It's pretty amazing. It's got 2 theaters in it. The acoustics are amazing. And I basically handle facilities or all of the cleaning staff. If you look through this building or through that book, it's a huge building. There's over 2,000 square feet of limestone alone, not to mention 7 stories of carpet, 2 huge theaters. Each theater's got over 1,600 seats that are all upholstered. So I have a staff of 13 cleaners who clean the upholstery, they clean the limestone, the carpet, the walls. When we have matinees where students come for like, the one that just passed was the Nutcracker. Believe it or not, there were what we call protein spills. Those are actually, vomit. People eat too much cookies, kids eat too much cookies and they vomit. My guys have to go clean that up. They have to keep the windows clean. If you look at the building, there's a lot of glass. They keep all of that stuff clean. I put out schedules, I do payroll, so that involves what? Math, right? I gotta have some education to be able to do that. Maybe not necessarily a college education, but I need to know how to do Excel. I need to know how to do math. I need to know how to organize people. How does Spanish help me do that? The staff that I have of 13, Spanish is their first language. So they clean for a living, right? Someone's got to manage them. Someone's got to tell them what to clean, when to clean it, where, what days they're coming in, how they get paid, and they need to be able to communicate with them. They don't understand English, so if someone tries to tell them about their paycheck or about their schedule in English, they're not going to understand it. This is where I come in. The company that actually houses these cleaners, they actually have over 100 accounts in Kansas City alone. 90% of the cleaning labor, the cleaning workforce, over 90% of them are either Mexican, Colombian, Puerto Rican, they're Latino, and English or Spanish is their first language. They might understand a little bit of English, but not much. From what the company has told me, I was one of 2 that applied for my position, one of 2 who were bilingual. They had 15 applicants for this position. So out of the 15, only myself and someone else knew Spanish. We knew a second language. So automatically, we beat out those 13 other people. Why? Because they only knew one language. They only knew English. So guys, knowing another language, especially Spanish, is very valuable. When you look at menus or directions or anything that's printed, a lot of times you'll see it in more than one language. Sometimes you see it in multiple languages. Sometimes you only see it in two. English and Spanish are usually the most common, right? Yeah, kind of, sort of, yes, it's true. Because Spanish is the second most common language spoken in the United States. It's the third in the world, next to China. I only did that for my research. This little project, thank you, Noah, was kind of fun for me because I didn't know some of the facts. I printed this out for you guys, and we can kind of read through it. I'm not going to read through the whole thing because I don't want to bore you guys, but let's just kind of touch over the key points. I think I put 10 main points. 10 reasons why Spanish is important in the workplace. 1, to keep your problem solving and communication skills sharp. Studies have shown that knowing a second language makes you smarter. It hones in on your logic and problem solving skills. It's great mental exercise trying to remember all those grammar rules, and it keeps extra stash of vocabulary words for you to use. Not only will you be able to converse in Spanish, but your speaking skills will improve in English as well. This makes sense, you know, problem solving. If you think about problem solving in Spanish, it's going to work a little different up here because you're using a different part of your brain. So being able to do it in English and Spanish, that's going to give you the edge. That's going to be a good thing for you guys to know more than one language. You'll be sharper at honing in on problem solving. To be better able to think outside the box. Certain ideas and concepts just don't exist in English. This is true. Every culture is different. So knowing more than one culture, it kind of makes you think outside the box. You're not just thinking about what's the norm, but someone else who only speaks Spanish. You can kind of hone in on what it is that they might be thinking because you're thinking in that language. Start to think a different way. When you're thinking of, what are you guys talking about right now? Food, you're learning food, manzana, naranja, pera, you know, even using your mouth differently when you're enunciating those letters makes your brain think differently. It's a good thing. Number 3, U.S. job market demands bilingual speakers. It used to be that only certain companies and certain industries required some. However, as the world becomes smaller and companies expand their reach, the demand for bilingual employees is growing. When you guys graduate, because all of you will graduate, yes, do you want to travel? Do you want to travel outside the U.S.? Do you want to travel outside Kansas City, outside Liberty, outside Missouri? Do you want to see what's out there? Maybe travel to a different country? Knowing another language will help you, especially Spanish, because again, it's one of the largest known languages in the world. Let's go to number 4. Spanish is the second most used language in the country, 3rd in the world. So here are the statistics. Over 37 million Americans speak Spanish, according to this index. 88% of executive recruiters say the ability to speak more than one language is critical to international business across waters, right to the business success. 79% of North American recruiters cited Spanish as the additional language most in demand by employers. French was next at 43%, followed by Mandarin Chinese at 30%. I thought these were interesting stats, and that's why I put this on there, to show what a high percentage Spanish is compared to French or Mandarin. You guys chose a good language to learn. This will definitely help you in the future if it's not already with some of the words that you probably already learned now. Even a simple greeting can go a long way. Eye contact and language, right? Number 5, he or she can reach international consumers. So asking again if you guys want to think outside the box, travel outside the country, reaching international customers, you're a valuable resource if you speak the region you're targeting or not. Those who have grown up 2 or more languages understand how complicated communication between 2 cultures can be, including knowing which areas require sensitivity and which call for being stern. I thought that was interesting because there are certain things that you say in Spanish que vas a decir con fuerza, right? And you can tell that you're gonna do it with ganas, you're gonna do it with emphasis. And you can notate that when you are listening to someone. Has anyone ever heard someone speak in Spanish? Whether they're Puerto Rican, Colombian, you ever notice that sometimes they move their hands, or maybe they're very direct, or their facial expression, depending on what they're saying. It has to do with the culture. It has to do with speaking that other language. That we just, unfortunately, we don't really have that in English. Our language, English, can sometimes be boring if it's your first language, because you're just on and on with English, right? But if you know another language, you start to learn the dialect, you start to learn kind of the moves, the facial expressions that you might make when you're saying those words, especially if you're doing it with energy or passion. I like this one, number 6. Schools need more than teachers. They need more than teachers who can speak Spanish. I should say schools need more teachers who can speak Spanish. Is that just...
Yeah, you still have like 25, 30 minutes.
Got it. Schools typically seek out counselors, administrators, and superintendents who can speak with all members of their local community. Healthcare is a similar situation. Many hospitals are stuck without bilingual staff, office workers or directors. Many hospitals, medical staff, as much as 10% more than average an hourly wage if they're bilingual. That extra pay could be as high as an extra $6,000 a year. So why is this one important? We need more educators, right? Your Spanish teacher, you guys are lucky to have her. She knows more than one language. Not every school, sometimes the availability is not there, and then they can't even offer a Spanish class. How sad is that? But she's here, so she can teach you guys Spanish. That's good to have. How does that impact you? Well, it says right here, you can make more money being bilingual. I was able to ask for more money when I was negotiating my salary because I'm bilingual. I wouldn't have been able to do that. I use being bilingual as leverage to ask for more money when I was interviewing for the job that I have as project manager. That's my official title, I guess. That's my official title, project manager. Because that, again, gave me an edge. I know 2 languages, and I'm able to utilize that. So you guys can make more money by knowing more than one language. Knowledge is power, right? You guys have heard that. It's true, knowing another language. Being bilingual makes individuals work better and smarter. Bilingual people have more practice using their brains in a new way. This makes them more able to multitask at work and get more done on a daily basis. Also, bilingual workers have an easier time controlling their emotions and impulses. I don't know if I agree with that, but there's probably some truth to that. Bilingual workers also have amazing memories and attain sharper focus at work. As the brain works harder to retain both languages, it becomes better at storing facts. Employees, bilingualism benefits them mentally and increases their productivity at the workplace because their brains are sharper. You know, before this, I was a Montessori teacher. Has anyone ever heard of Montessori? Does anyone know what Montessori education is? Nobody? No? So Montessori is kind of like advanced early childhood education. So my age group of kids that I taught was 3 to 6, and we followed the methods of Dr. Maria Montessori. And the theory was that the brain is like a sponge during those concrete years, the 3 to 6 age. And so teaching a child a second language during those years, the brains are like a sponge. They're going to take it in much quicker, and they're going to advance quicker. You know, I did it for about 6 years, and I was a Spanish teacher for the Montessori school, and I found it to be true. Teaching those children Spanish as they're learning verbal skills, learning how to pronounce the alphabet, say the alphabet, know what their ABCs are. Being able to pronounce that in Spanish, I can't explain it. Their linguistic capabilities just shot through the roof because now they weren't just learning English. These kids were learning Spanish too, and I would incorporate that. I would switch days. Some days would be English, some days would be Spanish. And we just work on basics. Hello, my name is, and then I would do Montessori lessons, you know, the pink tower, we would do cubes, just different things that are required of that. So my point point is, as young minds, right now it's easier for you guys to absorb another language. As you get older, your brain becomes more set, and it's going to be a little harder to retain or to absorb another language as easy as it would be right now. So you guys are doing really good by learning another language right now instead of waiting until college or your older years to learn it. You'll retain it much quicker and easier. Okay. Where am I at? Number 8. I did that. Number 9, being bilingual helps executive brain function. I thought this was interesting. What is executive brain function? So the formal definition is the executive functions are a set of processes that all have to do with managing oneself and one's resources in order to achieve a goal. It is an umbrella term for the neurologically based skills involving mental control and self-regulation. So what does that mean? That's a lot of verbiage. What does that mean? So in layman's terms, or in English, the executive functions all serve a command and control function. They can be viewed as the conductor of all your cognitive skills. They help you manage life tasks of all types. For example, executive functions let you organize a trip, research a project, or a paper for school. Often we think of problems with executive functioning, we think of disorganization. However, organization is only one of these important skills. So being bilingual helps this process of, I don't know about you guys, but I'm not the most organizational person. But apparently being bilingual helps sharpen this. So I need to use Spanish not just in the workplace, I need to use it with other people because it's good for your brain. You know, it's not on here, but another research I did was being bilingual helps people with dementia, with Alzheimer's, if you guys have ever heard of that. I figured this doesn't really pertain to you guys because you guys are so young, but usually people when they get older, some people will get Alzheimer's or dementia where they start memory loss. And I know research has shown one of the things to help improve that is to keep your brain sharp. So crossword puzzles, learning another language, which I'm sure that's why that study had that. So this is good. This would be good for if you have elderly people, elderly grandparents, or anyone in your lives that you can practice Spanish with, who maybe are in a similar situation or memory loss. Learning another language at an elderly age is actually good for them. So that's something that to take into account when talking Spanish. Bilingualism is a skill, that's fine, that many American workers don't develop. Several fields are desperate for bilingual speakers or those who can read and write in another language other than just English, so that come into a new job with the ability to help out on a conference call or can write in Spanish for international customers. One is a translator, more than just a translator. By proxy, the translator becomes the gatekeeper to the whole conversation. So what does this mean? This means if you become a translator, let's say you get so good at Spanish that you decide you want to do it for a living. Number one, you're going to get paid more, right? Because you know more than one language. Number two, if you were a translator, let's just say, for instance, you worked for a big corporation, a big bank, and this bank wanted to do business with Mexico. But the big wigs of the bank, the big corporate people, they don't know Spanish. So they need you guys to translate. So here you come into this big meeting room, if you can imagine. You're sitting in the middle. Here's the owner of the bank. Here's the owner of another bank in Mexico who only speaks Spanish. And they want to do business. Millions of dollars they want to do business. But they can't communicate with one another because they don't know each other's language. Here you come in as a translator who gets paid more money and who knows English and Spanish. You get to come in right in the middle and basically make the conversation. You translate. So by proxy, you're controlling the conversation because you're the only one that can understand this guy, you're the only one that can understand that guy, and you're the only one that can communicate and tell each other what each one is saying. That's a pretty important job. That's a pretty, that's deep. That's because what happens if you translate the wrong thing and you tell the other guy the wrong thing? That would be a big mistake. But if you do it the right way, and let's say they make the deal, at the end of the day, you were responsible for that because you knew more than one language. There's so many benefits, guys. I mean, a lot of this says it makes your brain sharper. Well, yeah, knowledge, again, knowledge is power. Anything you put into your mind is gonna be good for you, right? But knowing another language, it's funny, before I left Kaufman to come over here, I was talking to my employees who only speak Spanish, and one of them he's kind of like my star employee, I said, yeah, I'm going to speak to this class today. What do you, and he's in his 20s. He's in his 20s, he's from Mexico, he's under DACA, which I don't know if you guys know what DACA is or if you've discussed anything about DACA. So he's from Mexico, he's trying to stay in the United States, but they're trying to send him back. It's this big political war that we're in right now. And he's trying to stay in the United States and doing everything right. He's trying to get his GED. This guy's in his 20s and he's still trying to get his GED. He wants to finish. He's not even thinking of college yet. He just wants to get his GED so that he can function in the world. So here's a guy with GED. He makes about $10 an hour, and he's been with the company for 6 years at $10 an hour. I don't know about you guys, but I'd want to make more than $10 an hour, especially when you guys get out into the real, the world where you're gonna have to start paying bills and a house over your head. You're gonna want to make more money to sustain whatever family lifestyle you may or may not have. The only way to do that is through knowledge, and being bilingual is one of those things. So going back to what I asked him, I said, hey, how can Spanish help? How does it help in the workplace? And you know what he told me? I found it to be very comforting. He said, I didn't even think about this. He said, you can impact the lives of another kid. You guys can impact the lives of another kid, the life of another kid in your school, or someone in your community, someone in your neighborhood. And you probably haven't even thought about it. Does anyone know anyone that only speaks Spanish and they can't speak English? Does anyone know that? Just raise your hand if you do. Nobody knows anyone that only speaks Spanish. Nobody knows someone that just speaks Spanish only. Well, if you ever come across someone that only speaks Spanish, you don't know what's going on in their life. Knowing even just a few words in Spanish, hola, ¿cómo estás? A simple greeting, that could go a long way in that person's day, in that person's life. No idea what's going on at home. They could have a bad home life, and just being able to communicate to that other person by saying a simple hello in their language, that could go a long way. And you could impact them. You could impact them for life, depending on what it is you tell them. So knowing more, get your feelers out there, meet people, explore. If you don't know anyone that only speaks Spanish and you guys are in Spanish 101, you should meet someone. You should go out and meet someone that only speaks Spanish. Go to a taqueria over on Kansas Avenue. Go to, on the Kansas side, there's a lot of places where, Minnesota Avenue, where there's all these little Mexican restaurants. I encourage you guys to go visit these stores, to go visit these local businesses that are owned and run by Latinos, people who came from Mexico or wherever to start a business here in the United States and are showing their culture. They're selling what they have from their country. You'd probably be really interested of what's offered. Have you guys explored, I don't know, the candies, the foods? You guys are working on food right now. I don't know what types of foods you guys have been talking about.
We're gonna talk about pan dulce today.
Wow, that's a good thing. Pan dulce, yes, that's delicious. The sweet bread, the Mexican sweet bread is what it is. Yeah, there's some great panaderias over on Kansas Avenue in Minnesota. You guys should definitely explore other people. You'll want to do that because if you plan on excelling, which I'm certain you guys do, you're going to want to think outside the box, which is kind of what this says. People that are thinking in 2 different languages or speaking in 2 different languages, they're going to be thinking in 2 different languages, and that's kind of neat. That makes you more valuable not just in the workplace, but also in life. Because if you're stuck in a box and you only think one way because that's how you were brought up or that's how you were raised, and you refuse to look outside, this is a diverse world, a very diverse country, and we need to act like that. We need to be that way. We need to learn more about other cultures, especially learning Spanish as another language. It would definitely benefit you guys. Okay, I think I went through all of these. I did. Bless you.
Bless you.
Does anyone have any questions about speaking Spanish or being bilingual?
I'll do my first and they can do it.
Yeah.
When you first heard about the job that you applied for, was it advertised as looking for someone bilingual? Or was that just a benefit that you got since you reached out?
That's a good question. Yes, it did state on there bilingual, and I think that's because I was looking for a bilingual position, because I already knew going into the workforce that being bilingual was probably going to get me more money. I have a 3 and a 5-year-old and a husband. I live in Liberty, and I needed more money. As a Montessori teacher, I wasn't making enough money. I needed to explore my options. I was using my Spanish a little bit at the school teaching kiddos, but I knew being bilingual, I knew that there were not enough of me. There weren't enough bilingual people out in the workforce looking for these management level jobs, and that I had the experience and that I was bilingual and that I could offer that. So going into it, I did, and it did state they were looking for a bilingual project manager. So yes. Yep.
What other questions do you guys have?
Anybody?
Shy.
That's
Do you
okay.
have any stories about a time when there was like a problem and then you came in and saved it with your Spanish?
Actually, my main job, so my job at Kaufman, I think I already told you guys, was to manage these 13 people, right? We have events. We have an event that just finished right now. It was at 10 o'clock and it finished at 2, or finished at 1. National Geographic. National Geographic is at the Kaufman right now. So I tell these 13 people which theater the event's gonna be in, which theater they've got to clean once the event is over. Sometimes during the event, if an accident happens, if a spill happens, if someone gets sick all over the carpet, we all carry radios. Well, the front of house is what we call it. The people that are running the event, they have radios, and they'll typically get on the radio. They don't know Spanish, so they'll say, Mary Maxine to SG360, which is the name of the company for the custodial, right? SG360, they'll call my department. Well, no one else on my staff could answer that radio because they don't speak English, so they can't answer it. So I answer because I'm bilingual, I speak English, and I say, hey, this is Veronica, how can I help you? We've got somebody spilled their wine on Brandmeier Hall. We need someone to clean that up. Okay, no problem. I'll send someone over there right away. I'll switch channels to the channel that my staff are on, and I'll say, Don Ramón, puedes ir al piso 4 porque alguien se tiró un vaso de vino, or something like that. But I would relay in Spanish what I need him to do, the location of where it's at. Remember, I told you guys, Kaufman is 7 floors. There's, 28 different bathrooms, and each bathroom has 8 to 12 stalls in it. I mean, there's a lot of bathrooms in that place. So you can't just say there's a spill outside the bathroom. You have to have the exact location. So being able to say that in Spanish, being able to take that information in English, and then spit that out into Spanish to someone else so that they can go, do what needs to be done. Not everyone can do that. Actually, no one else at that facility, no one else at Kaufman, except for me, could do that. Because everyone that's front of house, running the events, ticket office, administrative, the people that run the show, they don't know anything about Spanish. And the people behind the scenes, the people that are making everything look shiny and pretty and making all the dressing rooms look beautiful and washing the towels and all of this stuff, they don't know any English. So they need someone to talk to them in Spanish to be able to tell them what to do. They don't know what to do or where to go. They don't know how to read the calendar with all of the events in English. So that's where I come in, because I can translate that to them. So the job that I have, I told you guys, I beat out 13 other people because they didn't know. They didn't know Spanish. I beat those people out to get this job. And then I think I beat the other person out. I couldn't tell you why. If I had to guess, it'd probably be professionalism and personality. You have to be personable. You have to be able to talk to people, especially when you're in a management position and you're managing people and you're talking to people and you're having to make eye contact with people. Not everyone can do that either. And I've done that before. Being a teacher of kiddos, owning a business, experiences that I've had in my life have helped with that. But this job that I have right now has helped me the most in being bilingual and being able to speak a different language. So, but no matter what you're gonna do, this is a commercial cleaning service, guys, that I help manage, staff. There are tons of other jobs. I don't know what you guys are looking to do in your future when you graduate, but whether it's the banking industry, education, even being a police officer, interrogating or interviewing people, it goes on and on. Being a doctor, being in a medical facility, having bilingual people that don't speak English, only Spanish, knowing another language will help you. Knowing Spanish definitely will not hurt you. If anything, like I said, it's good for the brain, it's good socially, you'll make more friends because you'll know another language. Other kids will think you're cooler, at least the ones worth befriending. But knowing Spanish is a good thing. Being bilingual is a good thing, yes. I will say this, my mother retired last year from the University of Texas as an advisor. So she advised college students and put together their 4-year plans. And she told me something very interesting. She said, Veronica, now coming into college, bilingual is not even acceptable anymore. You have to be trilingual just to even get ahead. Getting a master's, meaning you gotta know more than 2 languages in college. This is what she told me. I graduated in '97 from high school, so things were a little different back then. Knowing 2 languages was a big plus then, and I'd say it's still a big plus now out in the workforce, no matter what you guys decide to get into. It can only help you. And I think that's it. If you guys don't have any other questions about Kaufman, you guys should get out there if you haven't visited Kaufman. It's a great facility. And get out there and meet someone that speaks Spanish. They can probably help you get a really good grade in this class, and you make another friend.